Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started now. I'll introduce myself. I am Georgia. Um, I started with Hiawatha about 8 months ago as the daytime mobile crisis person. And today I wanted to talk to you all about why crisis is necessary and what it is and what we do for people. Okay. So we will have question and answer at the end. I can answer questions throughout too if necessary. Just post them in the Q&A section and I'll look and see what you have and try and answer questions as we go. Otherwise, it'll be toward the end. What we will focus on today is what's considered a crisis, why is crisis needed, the assessment process, what the goals of crisis is. We'll kind of glance over some statistics and wrap up from there. So, what is a mental health crisis? It is a behavioral or emotional or psychiatric situation that would need help immediately. So, if someone is going through some mental health issues and they're with family, friends, wherever they are, we just need to get to them immediately and they can't wait to maybe see like their therapist or psychiatrist or whoever their um, worker or helper is throughout the day or whenever. So they would call mobile crisis and we would try and assist them to the best of our ability. Examples of crisis would be suicidal ideation, wanting to injure oneself, someone who might be suffering a loss, death, or maybe losing an apartment or a home, breaking up with someone, any type of loss, hallucinations and delusions, or just any type of situational crisis that would cause them extreme stress and loss of baseline functioning. So crisis response is needed because um, there are a lot of people suffering from depression. As you can see, it affects 20 to 25% of Americans ages 18 and older in a given year. Only half of all Americans experiencing an episode of major depression receive treatment. They're not necessarily willing to call. I'm sure as mental health professionals, we know people aren't so quick to seek help. So we want to be here for them when they're in need. And then, oops, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the US. So that is something that we're wanting to definitely prevent. Learn more about suicide. It's the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds, and suicide is the fourth leading cause of death for 18 to 65-year-olds. Um, and of course, it can be a scary time for the individual experiencing crisis or suicidal ideation, as well as the people around them. Um, so for the mobile crisis team, what we want to do is be there to help family members and even the person who is experiencing a mental health crisis. Just be there for them as a support system, walk them through what they're feeling and experiencing at that time. And this also prevents um, the need to call law enforcement unless they are at a stage where they are definitely threatening suicide or threatening to harm the individuals around them. And we are better equipped to deal with those types of situations rather than law enforcement. Well, the mental health part of it anyway. So this just shows some of the trends in Minnesota, like the overall rate of suicide from 2009 to 2011. As I said, it's the second leading cause of death between 15 and 34-year-olds. So when we go out, if we get a call, an individual will call the crisis line, and they will get the triage center, and they are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have 3 hubs, and Hiawatha Valley is the southeast hub. Wait, I might have that wrong, but we're one of the 3 hubs. And then there are, during the day, I would go out alone. Sometimes I might call another team member to go out with me if I feel like I might need their assistance. But during the evening, there are always 2 practitioners who will go out and do an assessment if they get that call. And there's always someone available by phone. We go out to 10 different counties, including the rural areas, the surrounding counties as well. And this here is just showing the level of risk. So you have, I'll start from the bottom. The level 1 is their risk is low. They don't have a plan for suicide. They're not necessarily wanting to harm themselves. They might just be experiencing just stress or some situational crisis where they're not necessarily threatening to kill themselves. They just need someone to talk to and need assistance. Level 2 is low to moderate, where they might have an increased thought of suicide, but they don't necessarily have a plan or a means to commit suicide or not trying to harm themselves. They're just experiencing some extreme discomfort and need help with maybe regulating their mood or regulating their behaviors. Level 3 is high to, or moderate to high. They are having constant thoughts of suicide with no specific plan, but they might have a means, a way to commit the act. So we definitely want to get out there. They may have had attempts within the previous years or a couple of months ago or something like that, and we need to get out to them as soon as possible. If they do refuse, if this individual refuses to be seen, then we would do a follow-up call to check on them and make sure everything is okay and see if we can maybe create a safety plan with them and go from there. If they are a level 4, then they are a high risk. They are attempting suicide. It's already in progress, or they're talking about harming themselves. They already have a plan in place, and these thoughts are pervasive. They are constantly thinking about ways to commit suicide. They're isolated, and a means of suicide has been identified. In this situation, we would definitely call law enforcement to see if we can get them escorted to the hospital for evaluation. And then this is just the steps that we take if we do go out. So we get the call and we go out to see the client. We determine that they definitely need to see someone for mobile crisis. We go out, and these are the steps that we take. So we'll do an assessment and establish a relationship with the client, see if we can get them talking and ease some of what they might be experiencing right in that moment. Then we will identify problems, see and what they feel like is causing the distress. Then we might do some reflective listening and explore their emotions and give them validation for what they're feeling, but not necessarily promoting anything, saying that we agree with what they're trying to do, but just to talk them down, and then try and tap into other ways to help them deal with what they're experiencing, and create a plan for them to follow when we leave or when they're by themselves and they don't have anyone. We create a plan for them to follow and have them sign off on it, and then we'll still follow up just to, after we've created this plan, follow up and make sure they're doing okay with the plan that we've created. So as far as the assessment goes, like I said, we're assessing their current state, where they are, what they're thinking. Where you see this Canvas Help, that is the call center, and where they would call in. And if dispatch determines that a mobile responder is needed, they'll call us and we'll talk to the client and see where they are. And if they agree for one of us to come out, then we will go out and do the assessment and figure out what's going on. But we are not diagnosing, we're talking and wanting to know what's going on with them so that we can take the necessary steps to get them the help that they need. These are some of the things that we're assessing. So their vulnerabilities, symptoms, means of causing self-harm, like do they have weapons in the home, have any of the attempts that they have tried in times past, and are they threatening others? How are they functioning, and do they have any other resources currently in place, or what resources we can get put in place for them? So then we go from the assessment to the intervention piece. So this is where we're talking to them, also still putting those services in place, seeing what we can do to help them get back to baseline or stable out their mood, and get them away from the suicidal ideation. Find if they have any supports and that they already have established, and establish even more supports if they are needing that, and get them professional help if that's what's needed. And then it's still just the planning process. So we will then make out that intervention plan for them to follow, steps, things that they can do on a daily basis to ease symptoms of stress or suicidal ideation. And then we go into the planning stage. So this is where we're documenting. We document for their chart, and then we will document for the client. Like maybe we might have them write it down, because sometimes it's better to write it out yourself. It's easier to remember, but we'll have them write it down, or we'll write it with them. Some of the goals, things that they can do to decrease symptoms, any resources that's available to them right at that moment, or resources that we can work to help them establish, any coping skills or prevention skills that we can help them establish as well. And then if we feel like they need other services, say like arms or stabilization, then we would try and set that up for them as well. We identify things that might be triggering them. Where were they before they got to the stage of crisis? So identifying those things like that, and any supports that they have available, family members, friends, anyone that they trust that they can go to. And these are some of our goals, what we work to achieve when we do go out on a call and we're assisting. So their safety, how to relieve those symptoms, and to prevent any further mental health emergencies. And we want to decrease them. We don't want them to go to the hospital. So that's one of the main goals of crisis, is to stop individuals from going to the hospital, being hospitalized, or having to call law enforcement. We want to be there to be able to help them really get what they need. Because if you call law enforcement, they're not necessarily trained to be able to get those supports for them put in place. And as a matter of fact, the crisis team has been going out to Winona Police Department recently and doing some trainings to try and let them know who we are, what we're doing, and so that they can call us as well when they run into someone with a mental health crisis. These are just some of the statistics from 2017. I won't go into all of that, but it's there for you all to see the numbers, how many calls we might get, um, how many times the team was dispatched, and the different call outs for the hubs. So that's there. That's the numbers for 2018. And so more recently, 2019, this is going by just Hiawatha alone. We had 239 callers that staff might have spoken with, and then 93 assessments completed with the intervention, and then 143 callers are the screeners. So we do a screening, and a screening is where we would talk to an individual, and we don't necessarily have to be dispatched and go out. We just screen and talk to them, see if we can calm them down. It's not a full-on assessment. We're just talking to them for a few minutes, and they might have just needed information about some services or something like that to help them feel better and just to know that someone's there. So we might get a call from like a parent who's having an issue with a child, and they'll call and just need to talk down and get some information on how to better deal with that child. So the parent isn't the one in crisis, it's the child that they feel like is in crisis. So that's where we would get that screener versus a full-on assessment. Well, we went through that pretty quick. It wasn't long. I just really wanted to let you all know what Crisis was about, the mobile crisis team was about, why we're here, what we do, and what our goals are. So we are definitely here for more than just suicide. So before I started this position, I knew about the suicide line, but I would not have guessed that it was more than just dealing with suicide. So I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of people in the community who feels like the crisis line only deals with suicidal ideation or self-injurious behaviors, and not realizing that mobile crisis does way more than that. We are here for all things that are related to mental health issues or distress, those types of crises. And we also strive to bridge any services that an individual might need and help them to be better and get better and maintain wellness. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're here for. Any questions you want to ask? We're here to let you know. Something I might have missed that you have questions about. So if there aren't any questions,
Has there been available in Goodhue County, is there a crisis support?
yes, there is crisis support available in Goodhue. We do travel out there and help individuals out there as well. There are no fees. There's no fee for crisis support. We are covered by a grant that is given to the county. So when you call the crisis line, there is absolutely no fee. Hiawatha Valley covers So we cover Winona County and then like the surrounding counties, so like Houston County. Just, I want to say there's like 20 something odd counties that we cover, that we go out to help service individuals in crises. Any other questions?
What number do you contact if you need to get a hold of crisis?
I should really know this off the top of my head.
It's 1-844 crisis 2.
Yes. So,
Have you noticed any increase in calls since COVID?
well, it fluctuates. So since COVID, I think a lot of people assumed initially we weren't here, we weren't around. Maybe we had shut down, so we weren't getting as many calls as we would have hoped. We know that those people are still out there needing help. So I would say in the last month or two, we've seen an increase because we've been doing more outreach, letting people know that we are still very much here, available for them to call with whatever they might be experiencing. So, yeah, I would say recently an uptick in calls, but still trying to get it out there that we're here.
Another question we have, are Winona State students eligible for services?
Yes, anybody can call for services. Whatever it is that they are needing help with, they can call, and we're here 24/7, 7 days a week to help them. We can even help children, but if we are going to go out and see a child, we have to have consent from the parent before we can actually go out and see them.
Do you have a specific assessment you use before you go out on mobile call?
Yes, we have an assessment that we follow. There are some who have been doing this for a long time, so they just kind of know the questions, but there's a process that we follow, questions that we might ask, but we don't want to seem cold and like we're following a script, so we try our best to follow that assessment, but still be personable with the individual in crisis. So if you don't want to, if a client calls in and they don't want someone to come to their home, we can do an assessment over the phone, or we can do an assessment through video chat. That way, if they're still wanting to practice that distance, we can provide services through telehealth or telemedicine. We work with all age groups as well. Like there isn't any specific age group that we exclude, because we see children even in elementary school. So there isn't an age group. We just, again, with the children, we have to have the parents' consent that we can see them. Response time, it kind of depends. We really like to try and get there as soon as possible, but sometimes it might take 45 minutes to drive from one area to the next. If we're out on a call and say I don't know the distances here, but say we're in Fillmore County somewhere, we have to, and we're going to La Crescent, whatever that distance is, that time that it's going to take. But we try our best to get to individuals at least within that hour or less. I don't know if I missed any other questions, or is there anything else? We also do have a text line if someone is just wanting a text, and that is 741-741. So those individuals, if they just want to text and not necessarily talk to someone, they can send a text to that number, and that will also get them to mobile crisis. And again, if you don't remember the number, it's 844-CRISIS-2. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, I thank you for attending, and reach out if you have any further questions. This information will be available later for you to access. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.